welcome to the RMW Rock My World podcast. I'm Tony Fennell, and let me introduce you to my two co-hosts, Chicago's very own Chuck Masak. How are you, mate?
I'm good on a cold, rainy day in Chicago. Fall's finally here.
I love it, I got to admit. And across the pond in the UK, where it's always raining, Mr. Mike Litson. How are you, Mikey?
Yeah, I'm good.
And is it raining?
Not currently.
Well, thank you for blowing that bubble. Thank you very much, sir.
It has today, if that makes you feel any better.
Well, my job with the Weather Channel has just been blown out the water. Thank you, Mike. Sorry. All right. Well, right. Here we go then. Just in case we needed proof that the music business is still alive and kicking, we have word that Victory Records, who are, by the way, a major player when it comes to emo, punk, and hardcore music, have been acquired by indie music publishing company Concord for quite a tidy sum, may I add. Also, according to Billboard, Concord has acquired Victory's record and publishing catalog. While terms haven't been confirmed, it's estimated that Concord paid a whopping 27 to 34 million for the label. And that's not small change for a small record company / publishing company like Victory. In the new deal, Concord will also retain Victory's active roster. And in excellent news, and guys, I think you'll agree with me here, Victory's 30-person staff will remain employed under the new deal. And I have to say, it's quite refreshing to hear about a record company staff keeping their jobs instead of losing them. What's your take on this, Mr. Chuck Masak? Is music alive and kicking? And is music making money?
I don't know. You know, I've worked for Victory for a long time. I've known Tony for a really long time. I've done a bunch of records for Tony. I was surprised at the price.
That's not chump change, is it?
You know, it's not. And that label's not. I mean, 10 years ago, in the middle of Warped Tour madness and stuff like that, they were the hottest thing since sliced bread.
I think their annual return, though, I mean, from what I read, it was like they're bringing in, probably before tax, but $5 million a year. Now, that's a pretty good return. I'm guessing they based the deal on those kind of returns.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at. I mean, their roster is interesting. It's diversifying, just like all the hardcore labels, like Rise and stuff like that. I mean, they're doing a little bit more with pop punk bands and whatnot. We Were Sharks is pretty hot right now. Reverend Horton Heat's always been kind of big. So, and the Cro-Mags. Oh wow! They have a decent roster.
Victory Records is basically my childhood.
Well, that's what I mean. Like the Warped Tour era of music.
Yeah, I mean maybe look, Taking Back Sunday did their 20th anniversary thing this year, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or was it? Yeah. So maybe they're banking on in the next 5 to 10 years. There'll be loads of anniversary tours and stuff from this roster.
Well, I mean, their back catalog is pretty impressive. I mean, A Day to Remember, which we know that was a heated legal battle for them leaving the label.
Silverstein, Atreyu,
yeah. I mean, it's Bayside, Bad Brains. I mean,
Hawthorne Heights. There's loads of it. Yeah, it's like they basically had half of that scene.
Oh, totally. Bury Your Dead. I mean. You know, it seems like they cleaned house and they dumped quite a lot of bands. I mean, and Taking Back Sunday left the label, I mean, a long time ago.
Right.
But they kind of live on that.
I think the interesting takeaway from this is that, Victory is obviously now part of Concord, and Tony Brummel, I mean, he's no mug. You know, he's made his money, so he's gone in and bought the company thinking he's going to make some more cash, because if all you're going to do is just sustain what's already coming in, the $5 million a year, what's the point? You know, unless he was giving it for nothing, which he wasn't. But what I'm saying is, with these bands and this catalog now has a joint staff. So it's got the Victory staff that already love and take care of them, but now they've got, you know, a pretty darn decent company in Concord amalgamating, and the two of them are going to go after it. So I'm interested to see what their business model is with regards to making more cash.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Tony probably wanted to cash out. I mean, I think it's lived its. I mean, Concord has cash. They've got Fearless, which is huge. I mean, Fearless is just enormous, and they got the Kids Bop stuff. Concord Jazz is where it started.
Wait a minute. They've got Kids Bop?
Yeah, Concord
Wow,
owns Kids
let
Bop.
me tell you, that
Is it Santana that's on Concord as well?
I'm not sure, but they're mostly a publishing company. So them buying the label and retaining the artists is interesting because they don't really have. They're kind of a placeholder. Because I mean, Fearless is a pretty huge label, and it doesn't look like Concord actually ever, when they buy these companies or get involved with these other labels, they're not taking in the artist on a Concord. They're just kind of an overseer of the major distributor for these other labels.
They must, though. They must have another idea up their sleeve. I mean, there has to be they must have sat down and gone, maybe if we manipulate the catalog this way and we can do that, and there has to be a reason why they paid up to $34 million. And as I said earlier on, that's not small change.
It could be that they're expecting an emo revival. I mean, there is a few bands doing it. I mean, you've got the likes of Tiny Moving Parts and stuff like that are trying to push that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. They just released a new record last week, but they have some. I mean, with them having Fearless, they have a pretty big, and that's Razor and Tie also. I mean, they have a pretty big roster. I mean, you got Plain White Tees.
Oh, and by the way, they do have Santana. I just Googled it.
Gotcha. I mean, Mayday Parades, Wage War, Pierce the Veil. I mean, it's a pretty big. Ice Nine Kills, as much as they kind of fell to the wayside, they still move units. And
it's definitely a niche label. Yeah, not dissimilar to what we've talked about before, Chuck. Frontier, they know what they're getting. They release about 668 albums a day, don't they? Frontiers, and I think the budgets to record the albums are anything from, and I'm being serious, $2,000 and up.
Yeah,
It's like kids knocking out these albums, and they're just half the time it's just the fact that you can say, and we've all been there, I'm on a label. Labels don't matter anymore, and to be honest with you. And this is why this story really pricked my ears, and I was quite interested. I started reading it, and I'm going, wow, I mean, that is a punt. And that's it's not a gentle punt. $34 million is a lot of cash.
I think they have to be just looking at the publishing, man. I mean, because I'm looking at what else Concord's got. With Craft Recordings, I mean, they've got Filter on there, Taking Back Sunday. There's big stuff that's older records that they just have to be making publishing.
Well, when a lot of the publishing deals that are done nowadays, the way a lot of those deals are done is basically they go into your ASCAP account or they go into your PRS, wherever you are, and they basically see what kind of returns you've got. Now, unless they're taking a punt on a young kid and they go, this kid is going to be around for the next 30 years and he's a great songwriter, the deals are generally struck on the fact that it's how much you're bringing in per year, right? So basically, if you've got an old catalog of 80s songs and they actually do quite well on all the satellite stations, then hey, you may get 10, 15 grand advance on a redo. But with regards to this label, with regards to Concord acquiring Victory, by the looks of it, it says here that I'm actually reading it right now. Their returns are $5 million a year. So that's not small change either. So that's not going to go away.
Catalog. That's definitely back catalog. I mean, I think Concord's probably sucking up as many labels to have as much music bringing in back catalog revenue. Yeah. I mean, they're just trying to monopolize what they can out of it. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, I was involved in a deal with the internet when I was running a car website, and a big conglomerate came in and literally bought every car website and put it under their umbrella. And they were just reaping in advertising revenue from, I think they bought 50 sites in 1 year.
Dare I say monopoly right there?
Yeah. I mean, but I think I think Concord's just trying to probably build up their back catalog of, if they buy enough labels that are bringing $5 million a year in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of boutique little publishing companies floating around. There are certain publishing you're never going to get your hands on. You're never going to get your hands on Jimi Hendrix. Zeppelin, you'd be hard pressed. But a lot of these smaller bands, and a lot of bands basically are out of copyright now. They don't even realize.
Oh God, if I hear that Sony record one more time.
Well, the thing is, mate, is There are a lot of bands that don't know a lot about publishing. They're basically, their catalog is sitting there doing nothing. Whereas maybe a company like Concord is going to go, all right, so we've got this track and that track, but that are basically sitting in somebody's bedroom, and they bring it out once in a while in a bar and say, yeah, I was in that band. And that'll be it. But if you've got somebody who's actually going out there and actively looking to sweat the asset, so to speak, and that asset would be the publishing, you actually got a chance of making a bit of cash. So for the bands who are stuck on Victory right now, I'm not saying it's a bad label, but I'm saying the bands who are on Victory and will be there for the foreseeable future, knowing that Concord have come on board and they're going to basically bring in their weight to try and put this stuff away, I think it's a really, really, really healthy part of the music business.
Well, they got money to back this. I mean, they're making really good money on licensing. That's another big part of Concord. I mean, they say they have 12,000 active albums with 390,000 copyrighted works, all available for licensing.
Yep.
So, I mean, whoever's trying to do a new, Mitsubishi car commercial and they want Marilyn Manson, they own the publishing on that. So I'm sure this deal is good for whoever's on the label because there's money.
And cash is king.
Well, I mean, some money can be invested in the artist, which is something that's not happening as much anymore.
Right, and a lot of these old copyrights, and I mean it when I say this, as we all know, they just sit there. They and again, if no one is quote unquote sweating the asset, going out and pushing this old catalog, that sometimes you want Marilyn Manson, but you can't get Marilyn Manson. So what do? You go on to Concord's huge now list of back catalog songs and whatever, and you find something in the same ilk, and that's a lot of admin right there. But if you've got two companies doing it, you can set it up. There's electronica, there's rock, there's emo, and
Atreyu always did quite well with licensing. I know they ended up on quite a few movies, didn't they? Like the Underworld movies really liked Atreyu.
Yeah. Well, actually, if I can do a quick shift here. Oh, this was a good segue, this one. Right. So you talked about movies, proving that we're all getting older and perhaps preparing for our pensions, Chuck and me. Sorry. Weezer have announced that they've recorded a song for the upcoming sequel to Disney's, hold on to your hats, Frozen film. And it's set for release November 15th. The track's called Lost in the Woods. And apparently it's going to play over the credits of the film in the cinemas, which I think the movie comes out on November 22nd. And, I'm not surprised by the news that Weezer have done a track and it's on a huge film. That doesn't surprise me at all. But the fact that the movie's Frozen is quite interesting. What's your take on that, Mike? Yeah, but you're probably old enough to have actually gone with your mom holding a hand to watch the first Frozen. Sorry, Mike.
No, but I've dated girls that probably aren't much older than that.
So what do you think? I mean, are Weezer now old men saying, right, it's time to cash in, boys? It
is weird. I mean, there's something a bit less weird about Panic at the Disco doing it, because sort of Brendan Urie's kind of like he's got that whole I like musicals kind of thing going on, hasn't he? So it's a bit more, whatever. And no, that isn't a weird euphemism. That is just like the vibe he has, right? It does sound like one, doesn't it? And I like musicals. So it's like a 1950s euphemism.
I like it. But I mean, to me, and I know Chuck's a fan too. I'm a huge fan of Weezer. And it does look. The bottom line is you got to make cash where you got to make cash. But
they don't seem like the right fit, though, do they?
For Frozen, it's a weird one.
It's a weird one to be in that movie, but it's the perfect setup, man. These bands like Panic and Weezer and whoever else is doing stuff embed this music when they are kids, because parents spend money buying music, and I know this because of my son. This is a perfect business move for Weezer. It may upset Weezer fans because it's like, well, what the hell are you doing? But it's like, okay, like my kid was a Weezer fan. My kid's 12 now. He started digging Weezer when he was about 7 or 8, and he heard the song in something. And now Weezer's like his favorite band. So I think it's a smart move on their part.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I mean, Shrek, Smash Mouth, they made a living and a half off those movies, that franchise, didn't they? I think they did the first one and the second one.
They just gained a lot of fan base.
Oh, I mean, massive. These kids were into Smash Mouth, and Smash Mouth. What is that? What is that actually? Where does that name come from, Chuck? Is that a football
idea.
term?
I don't know.
All right, I'm going to look that up as we're doing this now. But Smash Mouth made a living out of that.
Why not? I mean, hey, there's only two ways for bands to make money nowadays, and that's licensing your stuff to TV commercials or TV shows, or licensing your material to movies or games. I mean, that's the cash cow if you can get into it. So why not?
Well, here it is. I've looked it up. Smash Mouth got their name from an American football team. What?
Really?
Smash Mouth got their name from Mike Ditka's term. Oh, from American football term, not team. Tony, go back to school. All right. So, yeah, Smash Mouth got their name from Mike Ditka's term, Smash Mouth in football. Apparently, he was running a Smash Mouth offense. All right. So
I was a Bears fan back then. I don't even remember that term ever.
Oh, that's strange. But again, I mean, they probably made more money off that movie than they ever made selling records. You know, and it would have been. I mean, to me, it would have been interesting to see Smash Mouth live. I never saw them, but who's going to turn up? Is it loads of kids expecting to see Shrek, or is it a load of rock and roll fans? I don't know.
No, I don't think the kids. I mean, I think the kids became Smash Mouth fan. It was embedded in their psyche for later in life. But I don't think Smash Mouth, they didn't endure the test of time.
No, I think they're still out there touring, doing those 3 songs that they've got. And I think one of them was a cover anyway. So talking to kids, Billie Eilish, isn't she going out doing some kind of eco tour, Mike?
Oh yeah, you saw this whole "I'm going to make the tour green this time by having a couple of recycling bins" or something. It's kind of like, okay, fine.
That's the eco-friendly part.
Yeah, it's like, are you going to drive around are you going to do your tour in a smart car? That's the question. Because, well, I mean, look, let's be real here. Like, tours are not like, you know, there's a lot of fuel and shit like that, isn't there? I mean, if you're going to sit there and preach, it's not really the right time, is it? It's kind of like when people, you know, fly on private jets to climate summits and things like that. It's like, I get it, but I mean, you're not helping your case, are you?
Oh, no royal would do that in his right mind, would he?
No, of course not.
Some of the stuff that, I mean, hey, I'm all for bringing awareness to climate and stuff like that, but she's like, her main thing is there'll be no plastic straws allowed.
I know, it's nuts.
And fans have to bring their own water bottles, and there'll be recycling bins. I mean, I know she's making this Billie Eilish eco village where fans can learn about climate change and the importance of being able to make a difference. I mean, it's cool, but I think most of the people going to Billie Eilish show are already conscious of that. You know, like that's that millennial, you know.
I wonder how much.
To be honest, when it comes to politics in music, right? Unless you're going to go see a political punk band, you know, if you're going to see Anti-Flag or NoFX, you know, obviously I get it. You're kind of along for the ride, aren't you? In any other time, it always feels a bit out of place. Like, even when Morrissey does it, people know it's coming, but you always still get people, like half the crowd moaning about it when he's playing like Meat Is Murder and he's, you know, got images of a slaughterhouse behind him or whatever. That's not what you're there to see, you know?
Well, dude, I mean, you've only got to look at the amount of bands that have stopped the president of the United States using their song as he walks in. Aerosmith, I mean, they went after him like a bullet.
I was at a punk festival in Leeds a few years back while Title Fight, a Canadian band, were moaning to a British audience that Donald Trump had won the election. And I'm just there going... And honestly, there was maybe 20 people at the front going like, woo! Or you know, we hate the president. He's got silly hair. Woo!
Well, those guys at the front there, they're the ones who are going to be first into the eco village at the Billie Eilish show.
Entirely. But obviously, but out of the maybe 1,000 or so other blokes behind, it wasn't a big festival. But we all just sat there being like, "Can you just get on with it, please?" You know, like it's, and honestly, you can see eyes rolling, people.
I mean, and you bring up a good point, Mike, about being like doing a completely green tour, like. You know, this is not going to be a small production. So, you know, there's going to be a couple trucks and a couple buses all pumping diesel fuel into the air and, like, do it green. Like, figure out a way. If you want to make a big deal out of it, do the whole tour green. You know, I don't know how you do it. I don't know enough about
Unfortunately, Chuck, it's the carbon footprint, because no matter how, you've got to get there, unless your tour is going to run for 348 years and you're in an Amish truck, you've got your backline.
I suppose you could rent your gear from everywhere locally and have local craftsmen come and put it together on the stage, and not take your full production team everywhere with you. In which case, then you probably could do it. Okay, the standards would suffer, but it'd be greener.
Yeah.
Talking about, just quickly going back to that Donald Trump and music thing, the Dropkick Murphys. Now, I would love to see that. I'd love them to see them turn up to one of those rallies, because they've told him constantly, stop playing our music. So basically, I'd love to see those guys turn up to a Trump rally, or any, listen, bands don't like politicians using their music in general.
Yeah, whether it's Republican or Democrat
exactly,
or whatever,
right?
it
So
doesn't matter.
These kids want to fight, but the Dropkick Murphys, they're known for throwing down. So that would be fantastic. Can you imagine that? Woohoo! That would be, I would go to that rally. That's for certain.
Well, I mean, you have your bands like Rage. I mean, what did Rage do back in, God, I don't remember what year it was now, in the 90s? But they played across the street from the Republican Party convention. They did like an outside fest right across the street, and there was, Rage was huge, so there was thousands and thousands of people there, and they were playing all their, anti-political music while these politicians are walking past and stuff. It's
The thing is, though, again, it's kind of part and parcel of Rage, though, isn't it? It's not.
Well, yeah, you expect that.
Yeah,
totally expect that from them.
Because I think that's the issue I typically have with the politics music, is when it's coming from the mouth of someone that you're just like, I'm not here to see that. Go away. Can you just play
politics was prevalent in most of those 60s folk songs, but they weren't ramming it down your throat.
No, it didn't come off. They weren't flying that flag.
Yeah, Joni Mitchell, Yellow Taxi Cab. I mean, that is, you listen to the lyrics to that, oof. I mean, that is so beautifully written, but she wasn't saying F you, F you, F you. She was basically saying it in a really succinct, she wrote it, a beautiful song there. I mean, but it was a total, talk about eco. I mean, she was when was it, probably like 62 that came out? That was a couple of years ago. So there's no difference, only it's a lot more aggressive nowadays. Would you not agree, guys?
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't mind if you write the songs about it. Great. Someone's going the show, they know what they're getting. It's just when you take a 20-minute break to go on a tirade in the middle of the set, and everyone's like, I haven't paid to come and watch you give a speech against something that I can do literally nothing about.
That is a brilliant response.
The other thing that's interesting about, I guess we're going to get in a little bit of this discussion, which will make it short. You've got the partisan thing happening in music, which is, you've got so many bands, Green Day, all these bands are anti-Republican. And then you have the other side where you've got Ted Nugent and Kid Rock and guys like that are anti-democratic. And they're bringing this polarizing bipartisanship into music. And it's like, what the F are you doing, man? Like, stop.
Yeah, Mike's point exactly, where you don't want the tirade in the middle of it. I don't want it. I paid to go and see Cat Scratch Fever. I don't want to hear about guns and what you believe in. I don't want that. I've come in for music, and it really does. It puts a divide between what your music and the guys
it's
you
super awkward
you like.
For the fans as well.
Of course it is,
because you can see that there's some people like nodding along in agreement, and there's some people just rolling their eyes, and it's like, well, now the audience is sat there all looking at each other.
They split the audience, and that's just messed up. I think unless you're going to see Prophets of Rage, and it's going to be an anti-Trump band. You know what you're getting into. You know what I mean? But it's when you go to a show and then Ted Nugent goes off on a tirade about everybody should fucking have guns and be shooting each other. I don't even want to hear about that. Just play Cat Scratch Fever and shut the fuck up.
In fact, he plays Cat Scratch Fever on I think it's a Gibson 335. But talking of guitars, I have to do this, guys. So at the end of this week, we'll be announcing the winner of the Fender Strat competition we are running. Mike, when is it? When are we due? When are we due to get the winner out?
Well, this will probably this video will go or recording, depending on how you're listening to it. It's going to go up on let's say by the end of the week. Once this one goes out, we'll have the other one up 2 days after.
All right, great. Well, I hope it's me. I hope I won it. Sorry.
I won it.
Well, I've run the raffle. I just haven't given you the script to read out who the winner is yet, Tony. So I can categorically say it's not you.
Oh, good. Go. All right. Well, guys, listen, you two, as always, it's been a bloody pleasure. Chuck, try and stay warm in Chicago. Mike, try and hide from the rain. And in Massachusetts right now, I'm looking at 51 degrees and windy. And all the leaves are coming down and it's fan-bloody-tastic. I feel very English. As always, thanks for listening today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube. And you can catch all of our episodes on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, InTune Radio, and Stitcher. Till next time, Mike, Chuck, see you later, kids.